I'm going to get into my favorite web mapping applications right now. I know this sounds a little bit geeky and nerdy to talk about my favorite web mapping applications. I'm just gonna highlight one of these for you because you may not be aware of this, but we have a whole series of Living Atlas apps. Now, the Living Atlas is a compendium of about 8,500 data sources from NASA, NOAA, United Nations Environment Program, etc. And one of those zones in the Living Atlas, which is a great library of spatial data, is our apps section. They're great resources for teaching and learning. So in the Living Atlas Wayback Imagery, I can say, you know what? I want a swipe map. And on the left side, I want 2014. And on the right side, I want 2024. So now with one or two clicks, notice I've got a very clear indication for urban sprawl. Notice here I've got an IKEA store at this intersection of Durango Drive and the Bruce Woodbury Beltway. Some of you probably know where this is. You can put it in the chat box. You can see a big IKEA store where just 10 years ago there was some cholla and some field mice. Now if I change the scale and zoom out a little bit, I'm going to go due east. And some of you know where I'm going right now. I'm going to go due east because this is, again, touching on the what's where, why is it there, and why should we care? What's where, why is it there, and why should we care? Which is the key three phrases to think about when you're using geospatial technology and thinking spatially. In 2014, there was this piece of land that was joined to the mainland. And now in 2024, this piece of land was joined to the mainland. But in 2014, notice that it was an island with a causeway to get out to the island. So what's happened? The lake level, and some of you know this is Lake Mead, the lake level has declined rather precipitously in those 10 years. So again, thinking about what's where, why is it there, and why should we care? Think about Riyadh, think about Atlanta, think about Las Vegas, which is where this is, and think about, are those places with massive population expansion and growth, is that sustainable? If we're getting water for municipal, industrial, and commercial use from surface water like this, like Lake Mead, what's wrong with this picture, right? So that's what we want people to do is think about, okay, if this is the situation and maps tell us so much about our world with one or two clicks, maps have been used to tell stories for thousands of years, right? The Babylonian clay tablet, Chinese maps on silk, the Al-Idrisi's map on two big plates of silver. Now that would have been a hard map to fold, right? Because it was on two big plates of silver. Oh my gosh, that was pretty bad, Joseph. I'm going to put on my hat here now. Anyway, the point is, folks, geospatial technology is a very compelling way of understanding our world. So just with a couple of clicks here, you can use the same tool to look at coastal erosion, expansion of agriculture, plate tectonics, glacial retreat, deforestation, reforestation, right? With one, you've got terabytes of satellite imagery at your fingertips here, folks. That is incredible. And that's just with one tool, the Wayback Imagery. And also you can, as you saw me at the beginning there, you can play an animation as well. I'm not going to take time to do that, but that's just one tool in this Living Atlas apps. Okay. And I've got a couple of other ones there. A new one called the Landsat Explorer was revamped for 2024. It is wonderful. So you can look at the Wayback Imagery back 10 years, right? That's high resolution in the visible range of the spectrum. But with other parts of the electromagnetic spectrum, namely color infrared, you can go back to the 1970s, okay? And some of you know how much I love the Bee Gees and Peter Frampton. Well, you can look at satellite imagery when those bands were producing music. Fascinating. Oh my gosh. So you've got 50 years of satellite imagery to compare and look at change over space and time. And again, to plan a more resilient, healthier future. That is just amazing that you've got that at your fingertips with the Landsat Explorer. So I highly recommend you doing that. Now, everybody on the planet saw this for many years, right? The JHU COVID dashboard. That was made with ArcGIS dashboards, which is a tool that my organization, ESRI, creates. And I want to encourage you, not just with this demonstration, this is the most popular dashboard of all time because people needed it, right? They needed it to make daily decisions. With these same tools, you can use as well for teaching and research. And for you instructors out there, yes, I want you to be more to keep learning with your geospatial technology journey, but also give it to your students. Give it to your students. Give these tools to your students. Let them fly and move forward with these. So for example, I, as many of you know, am passionate about many things, and I know you are as a community as well. So here's my web map on walkability that's housed inside a story map. So right now I've got all these pictures of walkable and not walkable places that I've been to. Some of you probably know where this is. Abbey Road in England is not very walkable, actually. You have to have a friend or a loved one say, hey, slow down. My friend is crossing the street for the requisite picture. There's no traffic light there, so it's actually not very walkable. Fascinating place to go to, though, of course. But in this story map, I talk about what's walkable neighborhoods. Why do communities care about it? For aesthetic, economic, and health reasons. And inside my story map, I have a simple survey. Now, many of you have used SurveyMonkey or Google Forms or something like that in the past to create a survey, and that's great. So I've got the same kind of thing. I've got 5 questions. Is this place walkable, not walkable? Rate the walkability, tick all the choices that describe it. Where is it? And do you have a photograph of it? And then back on my story map, notice I have these points that I and others, because I've crowdsourced it. You can take my survey. It's part of this story map for today. So you can actually go in and rate your community. And notice I've got green for walkable and hollow for not walkable. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, so this place was rated as good for pedestrians. It looks like a rural area. The point is, anybody can submit information to my online survey. That's one point. The second point is, I was just talking about a dashboard. I'm using the same tool, ArcGIS dashboards, for a dashboard, just like the dashboard in your car that gives you a lot of information in a short amount of space. This dashboard gets a feed from my walkability survey. And notice that I've got about 3/4 have been deemed pedestrian friendly. I've got about 1,700 points that people have submitted thus far, 30 points added last month. And you can see the last few points that people have added to my walkability survey. And so the point is, I've got this one dashboard that gives me a snapshot of my survey results as of right now. That's a trend in mapping, right? People want to map things now or as near real time as possible. Wildfires, traffic, weather, the latest hurricane predictions, etc., right? They want to be able to map those things. And so that's one of the key trends in mapping. So the point is, there's 2 points with that walkability map. One, all those tools are connected, the survey, the story map, the dashboard, and the web map. And the second thing that's powerful about that is that it didn't take me months or years to create that. It's 1 or 2 class periods for the story map, 1 or 2 class periods for the survey, 1 or 2 class periods for the dashboard, and literally 10 minutes to make the web map out of the survey results. So you've got these tools that are available to you, and I'm happy to take questions after the session today about, hey, Joseph, how do I get these tools? I don't have them at my university or at my school. How do I get them? Or at my place of business? So we can talk about that as well. All right. My 4 favorite mapping tools. I know this sounds a little geeky and nerdy, my 4 favorite mapping tools, but I've already demonstrated with the litter map and the survey 123 that's connected to the walkability map. That ArcGIS Online, I think, is my favorite mapping tool, as well as ArcGIS Pro. It gives you even more capability. Business Analyst Web App is another one of my favorites. You've got behavioral data in there. Who's got more than 2 dogs and 2 cats? Who's got more than 3 dogs and 2 cats? I mean, the granularity there is amazing. Now, it's not individuals, of course. It's all aggregated by census tract, block group, and it's also international. You can get that sub-country data for many places around the world. But it's just fascinating to look at people's behavior. Who attends the symphony? And why do we collect that data? Why do we buy that data, for example, from credit card companies? Because businesses want to know where to locate, right? Think of your Home Depot, your Chick-fil-A, your IKEA. They're not just going to randomly put things and lose millions of dollars when they're citing a business, or people developing a service for the community. What does the community behave like? What are their buying habits, and so on. So that's fascinating to use also in economics, sociology, cultural geography, and other courses as well. These are a couple of my favorite story maps. One of them is about the Titanic. It's grim, but it is fascinating looking at the route of the ship, who died, who lived, etc., where the ice flow was that year, and so on. And then this cowboy boots. I know we have at least one person in here from Texas, and I'm going there tomorrow to Texas Tech University. I actually created this based on a public art project in Wimberley. Big Texas boots, like 15 feet high. So I made a story map of the public art project, not just for my own use, but to encourage communities. Hey, you got a public art? Showcase it. Make a story map out of it. Attract people to your town and have them look at this and have people in the town think about other things they could do with art in their community. So I love that. And my 3 favorite mapping applications to explore the world. I mentioned Survey 123, which is an ArcGIS Esri tool. Also Mapillary. It's sort of like Street View that you can create your own street views, like a Google Street View, but you can collect it your own on your favorite trail. You can collect that kind of immersive so people can a view so people can actually follow the trail and see what you saw on that trail. So I love that tool as well. And iNaturalist, which a lot of people in the community crowdsourcing citizen science world use. I just wrote a review on iNaturalist about 3 weeks ago on I know this sounds super boring, my Data and Society blog. You've got 90 million iNaturalist data sets at your fingertips, plants and animal observations. 90 million. So you can have your students go out, okay, I'm going to collect data in November 2024. What was it like 6 months ago when the last iNaturalist observations were there? What's changed? How does the plant cover change? What animals do I see now versus what people saw then? So you've got a just amazing wealth of data at your fingertips. All right, it's time for some more geo songs. You folks ready? All right. I'm going to the field, baby, don't you want to go? I'm going to the field, baby, don't you want to go? I'm going to collect some data in citizen science mode. I'm going to where the Wi-Fi's far behind. That's the second verse, but I won't bore you with that one. All right. That's a couple more GIS geo songs. What about this one? I just can't resist, folks. I got one more. I look at the world and I see it needs mending while my device gently beeps. Oh my gosh, that was so bad. My humblest apologies. Don't worry, folks. I'm not going to give up my day job and become a full-time musician. You're like, oh my gosh, Joseph, thank you. Thank you. The GIS crossword puzzle. Now, I created this some years ago, but it's still incredibly relevant. And I'm just going to pose a few questions from the GIS crossword puzzle for you folks. Now, if you take a look at this is just a section of it. It's quite extensive. And just ask my spouse. My spouse had to proofread this for me. Oh my gosh. So she was very tired of this. But the point is, there's 400 clues in here. So I'm going to ask you a few of these. Okay. How about this? All right. What about a spatial term denoting features? This is 16 across, denoting features that overlay or cross one another. How about this? Some of you might know this. University of Kansas cartographer George, who devised the natural breaks classification. All right. How are you folks doing so far? Anybody in the chat box? Okay, I'm going to give you some answers then. A spatial term denoting features that overlay or cross each other. Let's think about that. How about 69 down? University of Kansas cartographer George Jenks. George Jenks. Rock chalk. University of Kansas cartographer. Indeed. So why did I create this GIS crossword? Because if you're at an event in the future and you're stumped for, some icebreaker kinds of questions, or you're an instructor and you want your students to demonstrate some of their GIS skills, give them sections. Don't give them the whole crossword. Okay. It's going to take hours. It's 400 questions. But you can see here just a section of it that I've really packed this in with some easy stuff and some challenging stuff. So feel free to use this GIS crossword. Again, the whole objective is to make learning a little bit more enjoyable. Okay. That's my objective. My theory is, and this is backed up by research, but if students are bored to tears, they're not going to learn anything. And hence this GIS Day webinar with you all to get you thinking about geospatial in a fun way.